of the heart of transcendent knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas. Consciousness dhatu, ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Deyata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, and praise the words of the Blessed One. Chenrezig Teata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Papa Ganju Zonji Gae de Medoji Shel Vadoji Mebadoji Chevadoji Ragi Baji Medum Beju Donji Sheling Hoyezo Angeri Donja Jejo Jewade Medu Nube Jendan Jewadan Dumba Jujim Bunzun Zun Joji Daji De Janena The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Idam Guru Rana Mandala Kam Niratayami. Jadan Zaji Janam La Janju Badu Dani Jazuchi Jibe Sunam Ji Drola Benji Zanye Rubaju Jadan Zaji Janam La Janju Badu Dani Jazuchi Nagi Chinye Jibe Sunam Ji Drola Benji Zanye Rubaju Zaji Janam La Janju Badu Dani Jazuji Nagi Chinye Jibe Sunam Ji Drola Benji Zanye Rubaju.
What to Lord Chibot in Mandra Marbe? Talange is our Shin temperature, 10 Luchadajan Rabani, 10 Luchadajan Rabatala, Taitan, Jimble, Jimbajadan, Himbajadan, Sudala, Chongda, Tomo Large Revolution with Sudan Ding, did the Tomo Large Rimbala Lujan with you, Chibichimi Large Revolution with you, Soon Le, Jibu. Chongda Tomo Large Revolution with you, tell us somebody on the somebody Chibitse, tell a Lotu Savas, somebody on the somebody Chibitse, somebody on the Jidin Shamati, Lochiba, the Jidin Shamati taught them about. Jidin Shamati taught them about the John to the lady on landed Manberwa, landed la near the late Haji saw a Hiji Tebachibala soon, landed Samba, Shiratu Samba. Sans Jodu Chatus, what is Haji, what it was on Tatambula, near Lendisha Zambatla, Shizambango, and Sosu Shet Sambaji, Shizambango, the leg habitu, Le Majiba, Le Pecheva, Le Majiba, the Majaba, Legiba Chumis, what they did Marba. That's also Shet Sambatla, near Marba, Le Lanchutu, Dembatan. Les dans la Pobachi. Tatambola son habile dans Kabilende, l'Inde, il y a un tembas, 다 나빌렌데 라고다 지양기 쳐봐 다다근 되버템바 나빌렌데 가서 어떻게 돌려서 말বে 로즈 슈전 말아.
That's right. So again, we will be looking at Lama Tsong-kha-pa's great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And looking at the outline, we find first relying on the teacher that is the root of the path. And then the next category of the stages of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher. And under that heading, we have two major categories: an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. Under that section of how to take advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, or the actual way to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we have three major headings: training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. Under the first major heading of training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, we have three categories. First, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity. Second, the measure of the attitude of a person of small capacity. And then third, dispelling misconceptions related to a person of small capacity. So under the first section, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, we have two categories: developing the state of mind that strives diligently for the sake of future lives, and then the second category of relying on a means of achieving happiness in one's next life. So that second category of reliance on a means or a method for achieving happiness in one's next life, we have two major headings: first, refuge, and then karma and its results. So currently we're in the section on karma and its results, and the major name of that section is developing faith and conviction in karma and its results, that is the root of all temporary happiness and certain goodness. So when we get to this first section, of developing faith and conviction in karma and its results, there are three major headings that we go through. First, reflecting on karma and its effects in general. Then second, reflecting on karma and its effects specifically or with its particulars. And then the third category is how one engages in virtue and abandons non-virtue after having reflected on karma and its effects in general and specifically. So that's the major heading order. So if we go to the first category of reflecting on karma and its effects in general, we find two major points. First, the actual way to reflect on karma and its effects in general, and then second, reflecting on the distinctions among the varieties or the differences among the varieties of karma. So the first category, the actual way to reflect on karma and its effects in general, has 4 points: the certainty of karma, the magnification of karma, not experiencing the results of actions that you do not do, and that the actions that you have done will not perish. So there are these 4 categories under that first category, the actual way in which you reflect in general. So we've gone over that, and then when we get to the next category, reflecting on the distinctions among the varieties of karma, we find that there are 2 points: the cultivating the 10 root paths of action, or the principal teaching on the 10 paths of action, and then the determination of the effects of actions. So when we get to the next point where we actually are, the determination of the effects of actions, we'll find 3 major headings: black actions and their effects, white actions and their effects, and then a presentation of other classifications of karma. So we're currently dealing with the section on the actual paths of black action at this point. So black action and their effects, if I'm adding, I apologize, but there's 3 parts to this: the actual paths of non-virtuous actions, distinctions of weight, and exposition of effects. So we're on the actual paths of non-virtue, or black actions. Dixon.
Yeah. What that the Kasur Gawaju, the Magawachu, Tunda, what the head marbe, could Jarun down, Ron Chevalija to do the Kukabon the child, and Mata Gawaju down, and then Magawachu, what the head of danger to go to the marbe.
So when we look at the principal teachings of passive action, we find that they're divided into 2, virtuous and non-virtuous, enumerated by 10. And in this section, we're finding out what the specific results of these actions that we engage in are. So this section deals with that, the results of those actions.
What Tawajitan Juba Jusan may said that never cover is never cover. Never got the Katu, the never got Patan, never got Jusani Zonma, never got Pede, no longele, had the Lutang to Shene, Nazon to Chenrezig the such we do numbers. The Lutang and Shene, the Nuchak and the Shazes we do numbers, longele son marbe. Longele, the Lutang and Shene, Nazon to check and such we do numbers. The Lutang and Shene, the Nuchak and Shazes we do number, longele son bares. What the Katul then I the Jijabai Gozo. And then Pemachi, man on Tambama and Shunzi, then a Suju na Peshing among Andros, what the town that grew Marbe. Carjine, Matan Hashene, such a bit dunaji, Nason Druare, Dendral Chicken, Numa to remember the Carjaversana, Pemachi, man on Tambama and Shunzis, Pemachi, man on Tam Metabal Charge Abaina. Mepechawate, Negawata, Magawa Niganane, Magawa Sakan Mochwares, Pemichi, Manone, Tamba my insurance said Magawa Injerota, Tamba the Gawacho, Magawa de Tamba my insure. Magawa Sakan the Mochwa Yenta, and Metan to Lat of the Shene, Pecho and Nasun Ruga Jusenteres, Marbe, Pemichi, Manan, Tamba my insurance. Tena Susu na fishing among Andros, what they is also on the Khensur never to us and as well Jusenteres.
Bless it.
Yeah.
So when we look at this human basis that we've achieved at this point, we find that we have the 8 leisures and 10 endowments. So we presently have this condition, this human basis with these features. And we have to look at these points that it is difficult to obtain. And the reason that it's difficult to obtain, we can establish by way of example and then reasons themselves. So when we find by way of example, we find a quote from Lord Buddha, I believe the Final Nirvana Sutra, where it states that the number of beings that are born that go from the lower realms and the higher realms to the higher realms are similar to those atoms on a fingernail. And those numbers of beings that are go from the higher realms and the lower realms to the lower realms are similar to the atoms found in the world. So this example is given to show the greater number of beings are born into the lower realms from the higher and lower realms than are born into the higher realms. And this is by way of example of the atoms on a fingernail versus the atoms that fill the world. So this shows the difficulty of achieving this leisure and opportunity by way of example. And then when we look at by way of reason, we can refer to Arya Deva's 400 verses, where Arya Deva states that humans for the most part are involved in the ignoble. Therefore, most ordinary beings fall to the lower realms or fall to the miserable realms. So here, this ignoble, what does this mean? Humans and gods mostly fall to the lower realms based on what the point is being made here. And what is the reason for this? It is because most beings are involved in the ignoble. Ignoble here is referring to non-virtue, and non-virtue necessarily leads to the lower realms of cyclic existence. So the 10 non-virtues would be ignoble activities, whereas the 10 virtues would be noble activities. So humans, for the most part, are involved in the ignoble or non-virtue. Therefore, most ordinary beings fall to the lower realms. So the reason, the correct sign that shows why beings are mostly born in the lower realms is that they are mostly involved in the ignoble, or mostly involved in non-virtue, which gives rise to the experiences of the lower realms of suffering. Here at this point, we have this human basis that has the 8 leisures and 10 opportunities that is so difficult to achieve.
Diba Magawa Jutala Chenrezig Yoare, Gawa Jutala Chenrezig Yoares, Diba Magawa Jubo, Chebo de Niwal Chenuar, and Dingeda, and the Chomu Tunul Chegres, and Magajumu Tsuti Chenrezig Le, Cheva de Hal Chegre, Dinge Lamahi, and then General Chigris,
and now we'll arrive and we'll slowly go over the points we've made about the degrees of virtue and non-virtue. So when we and their results. So when we look at the greatest degree of non-virtue, the greatest degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hell realm rebirth. A medium degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hungry ghost realm, and a small degree of non-virtue gives rise to an animal realm. And then we look at the opposites of the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities. So the greatest degree of ethic which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities would give rise to the experience of rebirth in the God's realm. The medium degree of ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities would give rise to a demigod birth, and a small degree would give rise to a human birth. So we're arriving at the section which shows how these degrees give rise to varying experiences or varieties of experience.
So then
we find a quote from Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, where it states that from non-virtues come all sufferings and likewise all the miserable realms. From all virtues come all happy realms, and all the varieties are joys in all rebirths, or all the joys in all rebirths. So we find this assertion in Nagarjuna's Precious Garland as well.
Gawale, the one joint suitan, ne debale, the one joint suit to the Kuaya Chabayina, and Raji Kalamato upon be Chutin, JB Kalamato upon Chugatan, and the Lotu to Sukangalo, ne Shedaki, ne Pomatuba Indaya, and the Ledilla Chikiteba, Conjula Chikiteba, Niwan Chigmares. What the song the Marba?
The karma is
long time on Marba.
Sum Gare. Yan just
Chugatan, Tuadan, Tawaji Marba, Tawaji, another Tudis, the Taga, the Raji Kanamato upon Chujin, Tapananga Sujo, Batabate, Chimijine Divare, Rajujine Divarwa. Tetabi Raji Kanamato upon be Chujin del Chutins. Chuga said Jibi Kanamato. Jibi Kanamatu, Chetan Deba Menaya, Swanji Jibi Wagi, and then Junchanda Jurota, but not Trabazu Shinchi Maruda, Chetan Chimbak Shin Junka Maru, Trabazu Hote, Shinjuba in Swanji Jibatan Genero, Jibi Kanamatu, Jibi Kanaman, one top of Chugalandua, Chugaje, and the Twas a Lotu Marba Lotu, Kasatan Sholoto, the Twa Lotu. Lotu Pomatu, Lotu Jimaji Pomatuba in and then Chuti Jimaji Somatuba, and Chuga Jimaji Somatuba inaya, Conjula Ishiki Tebatan, Lendil Tebat Manana, Niwan Chigmares, Lul Generis, Haji Lonte Momarbe, Lonte, Longi Bayoda, Lonte Baroda.
Bless up. So, if we have this basis of, that's right, 1 moment. One second. So we find a quote. So if we have this basis of discipline, if we go for refuge to the 3 jewels, and then we engage in the various positive practice, such as ethical disciplines, rituals, livelihood, and philosophy. It's the 4. Ethical discipline, rituals, livelihood, and philosophical view. Then we will be able to not have to be born into the lower realms of cyclic existence. If we have the 3 of these, ethics, discipline, if we have lapsed in any of the first 3, but not lapsed in the latter. So if we have lapsed in any ethical discipline, rituals, or livelihood, but not lapsed in the latter of philosophical view, then we will not have to be born into the lower realms of cyclic existence. We will be born into the Nagas realms. So if we have these ethics of ethical discipline, rituals, livelihood, and philosophical view, and go for refuge to the three jewels of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, we will not have to be born into the lower realms of cyclic existence. So when we look at these three different forms of ethical discipline, rituals, and livelihood, ethical discipline is referring to general ethics that are prescribed, such as the virtue and non-virtue that are generally prescribed to people. Rituals are referring to specific types of ethical discipline, such as those prescribed to monks and nuns, such as not cutting down a tree. We would find that cutting down a tree would be something that's to be abandoned by an ordained, but is not advised to be abandoned to a householder. So these are specific. There's probably a better specific word for these, but this is these are more specific ethics that were prescribed by Lord Buddha. And then the last, livelihood, Sumba is referring to the Choka Dan. The five wrong, abandoning the five wrong livelihoods. So here, the Lotunga are the five wrong livelihoods. So here, this is the abandonment of the five wrong livelihoods.
What the Shasuna and Sanjigo Niwan Romares, Lul Chenegres, Lotozo, and Lendeta Yachik Teba Shene, Matan Halchene, Kazan Sanjiton Cabandele, and the Tijan Lajua Matu, Samatajon to the rest, open Dota, Nabajan Chimbayin and Taba Rajun and it ledely Yachik Teba Yavina. What the pension do?
Less so. And we can find how important this faith and conviction is in the going for refuge to the three jewels and karma and its results. When we find that by engaging in whether one is a householder or one is an ordained person, if he or she has this faith and conviction, then one can abandon the lower realms of cyclic existence. And if he or she has this faith and conviction and doesn't abandon his or her view, philosophical view, but lapses in other forms of discipline, then he or she will still not be born into the hell realms. Will be born into the Naga realms, and then will, after being born into the Naga realms, will enter into nirvana during the teachings of the. During this auspicious eon. So it says that so they'll be born after Nagas as deities and humans, and then they'll pass into nirvana during this auspicious eon, except for those who are practitioners of the Mahayana. So it's those practitioners who did lapse in any among those three, and then are born as Nagas. When they transfer to their new life, they're born as deities and humans because of their unlapsed conviction in karma and its results and refuge, the philosophical view in this case, and then they enter and they pass into nirvana during that auspicious eon. All of them become foe destroyers.
Sanji Koani Jidel Pipico, and then Louis put up on Yoris, now could you know is Dana Louis put up on with Silly Kivers. What the Jukaris, Sanji should do, Sanji what the Rod Chance would have that, Sanji Tutina Mota, Ganyag Tutin, Magijubungu Tutin, and then what the Glumami, Dombatan, what the Doma Movelan, Dombason Matukan to so, what the Lulchen was. Lumamu at the Jewers, what the song look what the land is one.
So we find in the questions of the Naga kings of the ocean, where a Naga asks Lord Buddha why during a time when the Tathagata Krukachanda was in the world, there were very few Nagas in the ocean. They had been reduced to only a few. Even the retinue of this Naga asking the question had been reduced to even a few. And then, so he asked why this was, and that now it seems that during this time there are many, many more immeasurable amounts of Nagas in the Naga realm, whereas before, during that other time, it seemed as though there were it had gone down to very, very few numbers. And Lord Buddha responded that during that time many beings had gone forth, become ordained, but they had lapsed in their ethical discipline and therefore were reborn as Nagas. So because so many people had gone forth and lapsed in ethical discipline, that this lapse of ethical discipline resulted in being born as Nagas. So this is the reason for this.
Dawan Ramadan Hasubate, Jukala ten Chivaresana, and Goan Hasubali Chivares, Dungen Hasubate, Deban Hasubali Chivares, Pumomajana. I don't know to Shina Modu, Olo, Jukala Jenko, Shina Jumo, Nesonroda. Tenaji Salasan Navaina, Samodo, Sasu Jumo, Sonoro, Pumomajane, and the lady low Chikiteva, near the kitchen Mudu, Lendele Chikiteva, Niasmona, Tudinyaba Inanda, Chuganyaba Inanda, Toanyaba Inanda, Nason Chigmar, Rosa, Niwan Chigmares, Lul Chigres, Lotoso, and then Lendela Chitambu Yutan, and then shipping the metal halgene, Cabandella, and then Sanji Tung Dembalishune. Taking the Jubama to some Dajong to the race, or pension water, not number Jene, Lended to the Abijan, Lended Kuaya Chabaina, Chimbaina and Rajun and the pension.
So it's very beneficial for us, whether we're ordained or householders, to develop this faith and conviction in karma and its results, because we can see that in this case of the questions of the Naga kings of the ocean, where even if one has lapsed in any among the three ethical discipline, rituals, or livelihood, but has kept their philosophical view intact, here philosophical view referring to faith and conviction and karma and its results, then one does not have to be born into the hell realm. So we see the importance of this teaching as a Buddhist for us to understand. So we recognize that happiness is dependent upon causes. Virtuous deeds cause happiness. Suffering is dependent upon causes. Non-virtuous deeds cause suffering. So we can use many examples to show how the varieties of experiences are produced by varieties of various karmas. So when we look at, for instance, a forest, we can see that there are varieties of results that come from a variety of causes. So we use many examples to establish this, to develop this faith and conviction in karma and its results. And we can see the importance or the weight of this certainty because it allows us not, as a Buddhist, whether householder or ordained, to not have to be reborn into the hell realms. So this understanding is very, very important.
What does Gavana gain the Buddha doing Jula Suba, Sani Abutan, Koya, Chabaina, what the negative was.
So it's very important for us to think about the results of virtue and its results, and suffering and its results.
That Deba Mago, and Jetan Lunga is on the Deba Mago Chubakan, Chaumari, the Nanga Chok or Rujene, Sanji Chusumbaris, Magocho, and the Goa, Nanga Chok or Rujin, Goacho. Tell the Chelon Dun and the Gadamagajeva, legend on Chusum's house, what Marbe. That Jugunan, that Deba Mago Chute Kalekali Marbe. Yeah.
So when we look at these the principal teachings of the 10 paths of action. We look at the 10 non-virtues or 10 non-virtuous misdeeds. These are the most important among the paths of actions of misdeeds. So we do not say that if it is a misdeed, it is necessarily among these 10 paths of non-virtuous action. These are just the most important points that are made about the paths of action. So we don't say it's pervasive. We say that these are the most important points. So here we have the presentation of these 10 paths of non-virtuous action and then the 10 paths of virtuous action. So we're going to begin now looking at the text where we find the non-virtuous action.
That and the Madiba Mago, that Tamusu Jobat Marvel, Tamusu Jobaniba, Madiba Lamba, Sumba Luigi, Nijiba de Zumarbedu, that Luigi Nabason, Luigi Nabason, as Rose Shima Marbe, Panasu Jubilee, Tabasu Jubijide, the social Jambi, CJ Gures, Marbe, social Jambi CJ, or the Sud Jubaina, and the Sujubi, the language of the Ungres, Tella, the language of the Yunala, Je, Samba, Joa, Tatu Jitangures, Sujubijide, Casaparibotier, Sujubije, Samba Delta, du Jet dans Colon. Ou du mont son marbe, samba jidan, and the joie nebeja, and the tattoos, je, and deba mago, chungoji de yonwala je, samba, joie tattoo je tangures, sujubi leina, nije de masana sujubi legoji de yonmares, so seba in a sujubaroda, sujubi lelango yonmares, carisana, je, samba. Joata to Jignane, Jitango Maris, Kaza Paribu Seba Maris, Susu Seba Inza, and the J Samba Joata to
Ramse,
okay. Sujubi language Maris, Sujubi language, the J Samba Joata to Jimatan Age, Paribu Seba to my age, Ransebas Marbe.
So we begin with the actual black action of killing, or the non-virtuous path of killing. Killing is the basis of killing is killing someone who is other than oneself that is alive. So when we look at how an actual completion of the act of killing is qualified, there are 4 specific factors that have to be present. First, the basis. Second, the attitude. Third, performance. And fourth, final or culmination. So these 4 things have to be present. If these 4 things are not present, then it isn't qualified as an actual path of killing. So we can relate these 4 that must be present, are necessary for an actual path of killing to take place, to the other non-virtuous activities. So we find that when we divide the non-virtues, there are 3 non-virtues of the body: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. There are 4 non-virtues of the speech: lying, harsh words, gossip, and divisive speech. And there are 3 non-virtues of the mind: covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong view. So we can apply these 4 necessities to the other, or the other 9 non-virtues, if you will, as well. So there needs to be these 4 present in order for a complete path, or path of action to take place in among these 10. So when we move now back to the topic of killing, we first it's qualified by taking the life of another. So here, when we look at the case of suicide, of killing oneself, we wouldn't say this is an actual path of killing. We can say that there is negative performance happening, but not an actual path of killing, because of the fact that the basis isn't another person, isn't a person other than oneself. So it's because of this that we can say that suicide is not an example of the action of killing, the path of action of killing. So because all 4 are not present, then it's necessarily not a path of action of killing in this case.
and Chala in and Kamba in and Monta in and what the Jejitatu Mobuto, what the Majibal Jeje, and the Samba de Duché, New Moje, and the Colon Son Marba, on the Majibala, Deba Colon. What the J Samba J, and the Joa, and Goma Guarang, and the Gen Gujon and the Sujo Rangijon and the Gen Gujon and the Chibari the Marba. What the J Samba, Nijua, what the Joa. Tatu ta, and Jala del Tulu Jesuna, that Jala the Naresunabe, Tulu Jesuna, and the Majin Debangoji doing, but J Samba, Joa Tatu inside the back.
So the next topic among the 10 non-virtues is stealing. So stealing is taking another person's property. So this is how stealing is defined, taking something of another person's. So then in this case we find that the 4 must be present as well, the basis, the attitude, performance, and culmination. So when we look at the first category related to the action path of stealing, we find that there is the basis. So the basis is another person's property. Next, attitude, we divide into 3 categories: perception, motivation, and then affliction. So when we look at the attitude related to stealing, there is a perception that there is something to steal, a motivation to steal, and then any among the poisons present. And then the performance is the taking of someone else's property. Now, the taking of someone else's property can be done by yourself or ordered to be done by you to someone else. So if you order someone to steal, and they steal, or you steal yourself, the performance of stealing is present. And then the culmination is when the idea arises in the mind of the person stealing that the thing has been stolen, that one has acquired the item that one wants. So the basis is the item that one wants to steal. The attitude is that it's something that one wants, and it's an object of someone else's that someone wants, and then is mixed by the negativities. And then we have the performance of the deed by oneself or ordering someone else to do it, and then the actual completion where there is an idea that it has been apprehended or taken. So these are the 4 that make it qualify it as an actual path of stealing.
Ta loyin marbe loyin roba loyin dele je samba juwa tatu chiba kuroba ta marbe je dele doja meba ne yala meba tu meba ne meba je jakundu je marbe doja meba bandanga tu chimbi won chebi loyin da rojun won chebi ne loyin se na wote kakare mudwe chimbi won cheba ina anu suju jeme yoro wote jeme da suju ngute nyoshabe jeme tende ina ane wote loyin yungu mares marbe loyin yungu mares de maimbe ane tondo ina anda de jenda botan pomu samal loyin yungu mareta loyin je doja maimbas tene yala maimba loyala maimbas na ane suju jeme ina ya ane zalang de cholang kafun yo marbe son wote soba tansa tan kato sule mazam katan la tan what the Lama to Mazama Shubaina and Louis Hanores, Yola Miba Marbe, Yola Miba. Then two member Amal Boguchane, and then what the Bogu Chivari Sasuna, what the Tulo, what the Mazasha and the Jig member, two member. Then Nasa on that town. And then what the two Marbe, two. Then Tele geba se tanga ngale gechu mar nga kesuna susu jeme ine loin chana res tenshiwa ta ne me bala khona mutandel mazawa je ba ina wote loin chana go jerwa ta lasa
So then the next category is sexual misconduct. And we find that there are four bases when we look at the previous points that were made as a note of the four that are necessary. When we look at the first basis, we find that there are four bases for sexual misconduct. First is a person with whom you should not have intercourse. Second is the inappropriate body parts. Third is the inappropriate place. And fourth is inappropriate time. So these are the four bases that are inappropriate and become sexual misconduct. So we begin with a person that one should not have intercourse. So when we look at this point, it's different for a householder and an ordained person. So a householder is to abstain to only have intercourse with his or her spouse. So then it excludes, when we look at the exclusions, we find that boys and girls and dendru, and animals and so forth are to be abandoned as far as sexual intercourse for a householder, but we find that it's different than for an ordained person. So this is the advices relating to householder, of abandonment of sexual misconduct in this way, as opposed to ordained is a complete abandonment of sexual conduct. So in this case, we find that a person with whom one should not have intercourse with is this. Inappropriate body parts are mentioned as body parts such as the mouth or the anus or the hands and so forth. So these are examples of inappropriate parts that one has intercourse with, and as a basis of inappropriate basis. The next is inappropriate places. Inappropriate places are referring to, for instance, in a temple or a monastery, for instance, a god, a deity house. This would be an inappropriate place. And inappropriate times would be, for instance, if the woman, if there's some sort of sickness, natsa, if there's some sort of illness or sickness that would cause harm, then this is in the woman. Then this is an inappropriate time. Do nepa. I forgot if the baby in the stomach has become large. The woman, if the baby has arrived in the stomach of the woman, pogocha, if the baby has arrived in the stomach, so this is an inappropriate time. And then Rinpoche talked about the amount of times also, up to 5 times per day, no more. So up to 5 times per day are the appropriate number of times. So this is what was presented. So we have a person with whom it is inappropriate, body parts that are inappropriate, places that are inappropriate, and then times that are inappropriate. So we've gone over the 3 actions of the body in this case. So we've gone over the 3 actions of the body. Now we'll get to the 4 actions or activities of the speech.
What the Kutu Inchang Tension, Payinandua, Jada, Jujurejildua, Tamatama, Junto Mayu, Junto Bai Genes, what in Madua.
So we're on page 222 in the English, and where are we?
168.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Where?
Junto Mai Genes. Tongwa Tuba, Sheda Sheba, Naba Sheba Je, Jetan, Teleduba Jete, Takan the Dum High Jetel Je.
So we're on page 222. It says, starts with lying. It says the 8 bases of lying are that seen, that heard, and distinguished, etc. So that's where we are in the text. The 8 bases of lying.
That dream I jettle, Tonwa, Tuba, Sheda Sheba, Nabra Sheba, Jijagua, Naba Sheba Je. je naba sheba je tan tele duba je jaung de je de no marba je ro je ta ton teba se da nga le sheba tru marba megi sheba nai sheba ji sheba lu sheba yi ji sheba tru marba sheba tru 통화 더 tö바스나 메기 통화 안주고 tö바 니도 담 레고도데 통화 더 tö바다스 메 통화라 통마송 마 통화라 통송스 어두즈라나 쥐찬을 서고여지로다 안주고 tö바라 tö마송 마 tö바라 tö송스 어든데 tö바스나 통화서는 메기 시베 통화 말베 메기 시베 이던 카둘라서 통으로 통화 메기 시베 이 카둘라서 통으로 통화 tö바서는 안주 자투로다 tö바제 근데 시다 쉐바스 이 말에다 지 쉐바 하이 쉐바 le sheba son de jadon le sheba son de ha이 shebe 진용 거 말봐 지 shebe ron용 거 le shebe de 용 말봐 시다 쉐바스 시다 쉐바스도 어떤 sheba son de 용도 하다 하이 sheba 지 sheba le sheba son
de nam sheba
son de je son de je 와 시다 쉐바 다 통화들라니 통화다마 통화니 tö바니 시다 쉐바다 마시바니 안에 조르는 말바 나브라 쉐바다 마시바니 제르는 말 이지 쉐바다 마시바니 이지 쉐바라 쉐마소 이지 마시바라 쉐수 오투슬라게 좀 하이지도 제도 대사래 그 칼레지는 오들로다.
So when we look at the 8 bases of lying, it says that are seen, heard, distinguished, and cognized. So when we look at consciousness, we divide consciousness into 6 categories: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, tactile consciousness, and mental consciousness. So when we look at this first category of lying relative to seeing, so what we see when one sees shapes and one sees colors. So lying would be saying that one has seen something that he or she has not seen. So this would be the lying. So saying that one has seen something that he or she has not seen. Now the next category, heard. This is so seeing is done by the eye consciousness. So the saying that one has seen something with the eye consciousness that he or she has not seen is lying. The next category is hearing. Hearing is a sound. What one hears is sound. Sound is apprehended by the ear consciousness. So lying is saying that one has heard something that he or she has not heard. So this is the next category. The next, distinguished, refers to the next 3 consciousnesses. So distinguished is referring to the tongue consciousness that cognizes taste, the nose consciousness that apprehends smell, and then the tactile consciousness that apprehends tactile sensation or feeling. So this is what we say is under this word distinguished, and that cognized is referring to the mental consciousness. So it says stating that one has seen something that he or she hasn't seen, heard something that he or she hasn't heard, smelled, tasted, or felt something that he or she hasn't felt, and cognized something that he or she hasn't felt. And it says as well as the 4 opposites of these: not seen, not heard, not distinguished, and not cognized. So the not, if you will, so in that case. So if someone is saying they have not when they have, it is, I think, the not when they have and have when they haven't. Are the 2 possibilities there, just to summarize it into English. Okay.
What that
So those four, so these make for a total of 8.
통화, 퇴바, 시라 셰바, 안에 나바 셰바 제제 대도주제 제. 어제들에 통화라 마통, 퇴바라 마투, 시라 마셰바, 셰바. 조제는 말바. 이제 나바 셰바도 마셰바. 이제 셰베 셰송 셰마송 어떤데 어디제든 인사를 대제들에 대제들은 준샤도 그러죠.
So here the 8 bases are lying about something you have seen or not seen, heard or not heard, distinguished or not distinguished, and cognized or not cognized. So these are the 8 bases of lying. It's very clear when you look at Pabunka Rinpoche's liberation in the palm of your hand. And other Lamrims are clear as well. Some Lamrims are clear as well.
What the Juma, what the Teledoba the Juma Jetala J, Tongan, Turbatan, Shira Shebatan, Nabasheba Jeje, Di Dujuje, Tongan Lamaton, Tubala Matu, Shira Masheba, and the Yichiba to Mashebani Jet in Bade. Teledoba Jete and Koja Yune, Parubu, Tongo was. Koja yu ta paru jun shesa de kanza de donda ko khenji le ma to don mu ko khen de jun she na jun de me ji ra ma zu jun she ba ina an ko khenji le she na jun de no ji ro an ko donda ma ko khen le jun she na jun de me ji ro ta koja yu ne paru bu don ko wo sa
has to understand it.
Ne bagel ko khenji ko res
less of. So then it says, I'll read the whole thing. The 8 bases of lying are that seen, that heard, and that distinguished, and that cognized, as well as the 4 opposites of these, not seen, etc. So not seen, not heard, not distinguished, not cognized. So the 8 possibilities here. Lying is when someone else, the recipient of the lie, comprehends the meaning of the lie. So here, it's when one is lying or saying something that isn't true to another person. At that point, when he or she comprehends the meaning of what is said, then this becomes a path action of lying. If the person does not comprehend what you're saying, then it does not become a lie. It's not a lie if they don't comprehend what you're saying. Rinpoche, the Chutsu Zhedan drop. So we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Of course.
What dang to June to what the June high June Kasu, June high. Diba Mago de Yuan la Je Samba Jua Tatushi Sangudo. Number Jet Jos and Je Jang Je Tonga Tuba make the Tonga. That make the Tonga la Maton Melhoyagton sans le and then Tonga la Maton. Maton la Tons, La Zuna, and what the Jeden Marbe. Tonga Tuba. And you'll cheat that Cosmosana. Uncle Jazzy Shane to the Thomas Matuba Tusuna, Zeden Marbe. Tuba the Matua, Niji, Tonga, Tuba. Shida Shebasana, Shida Shebas, what things are Marbe. Shida Shebasana, Hai Sheba, G Sheba, Lu Sheba, Son de Union Gurvata, Hai Shebe Tenure, G Shebe Royan. Runugre, Louis Shibere Nuro. Renu Kazure. Hai Shebe Rejanu, G Shebe, Hai Shebe Tenuala, Tenuma Son Sata, Manubala Nusa, or the Laurota, Jumarbe. Tachi Shebe Runuala, Runumason, Romanubala Runusons, Jusia Urta. Le Shebe Reja, Manubala Reja Nusons, Reja Nubala, Reja Numas, Yazia,
Lesso.
Sheba said to the man, Suzu Shinamaya. That Luis Sheba, 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 soon to get the Numas was alone of Masheba Marbe. Kososo Shinishewa Marba, Nije, Tai Sheba, Sheba, Luis Sheba, soon to get Numasun. Numasun Salana. And then Mashibat Marve. Susu Ginual Lana Shiba. Shiba the Mashibanese, what things are there. Shiba the Mashibani and the Shiba said each Shiba Marve. Each Shiba Shiba la Shima. Each Shiba Mashibala Shirums. Nangazo Jazin Shir or the Swiss Marve.
So when we look at this path of action of lying, and we look at it in terms of what we've spoken of the others that relate to all the 10 paths of action, we find that there are the basis, attitude, performance, and completion, or culmination. So when we begin with basis. So here it says there are 8 bases. So first we said basis of lying are that seen, that heard, that distinguished, and that cognized. So that seen. So here one can lie about what one has seen, or lie about what one has not seen. So here these are the 2 examples, lying about what one has seen and lying about what one is not seeing. Saying that one has seen something one hasn't, I'm going to put it in a different way. Saying one has seen something that one hasn't, or saying that one hasn't seen something that one has. So these are 2 examples of how the basis of lying related to seeing takes place. The next is that which is heard. So here one hears a sound with one's ear. So if one is lying about it, one is lying about something that lying is saying that they have heard something they haven't heard, or not heard something that they have heard. So these are the 2 possibilities within hearing, lying about hearing something. Lying about hearing something that you have heard, or lying about something that you have heard, or lying about something that you have not heard. And the next is distinguished. This is referring to the 3 different things. The tongue consciousness that tastes, the nose consciousness that smells, and the body consciousness that has tactile sensation. So here, how one lies by saying he or she has smelled something that they have not smelled, or not smelled something that they have smelled, tasted something that they have not tasted, or not tasted something that they have tasted, and had a tactile sensation of something that they have not had a tactile sensation of, or had a tactile sensation of something and said they have not had a tactile sensation of it. So these are the possibilities related to the nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. So these are how one lies related to those. And then that cognize is relying to the mental consciousness. And here are the 2 possibilities as well. Lying about cognizing something that someone has not cognized, or lying about something that you have cognized, saying you have not cognized it. So here, these are the 2 possibilities related to consciousness. So these are the 8 bases of lying. Lying about what has seen or not seen, heard or not heard, distinguished or not distinguished, and cognized or not cognized.
zo matong lao gondo samba che jun lo ya ke san lo ko wa me ke zo tong ro tong mo do lao go san na and ko me jen da ji la na do jun re no par.
So for instance, if our eye consciousness apprehends form, so if we see a form and then we say to someone else that we did not see that form, then this is lying about having seen a form.
Ta jun she sa ke pe ke yu kon ra ju ro what the tanda ko ken ju go re ma to tanda ma go na ju re go me ba re ko ya yu ne par pe tan go wo sa ku ju de she so na la san ku wo de
So there has to be an object that is someone who understands. The object of that one is lying to is someone who understands what one is saying. So the recipient of the lie. So the object is the recipient of the lie, and one has to comprehend that has been stated. So it has to comprehend the lie. So it has to comprehend, for instance, that a person says, I have seen this when they have not seen that. So when the person comprehends that, then at that point, that person is the recipient of the lie once they comprehend the meaning of it. And a lie is then takes place. So these can be divided into 8 categories. Lying about seeing something you haven't seen, or lying about something you have seen and saying you haven't seen it, lying about something you have heard and saying you haven't heard it, or haven't heard that you have heard that you haven't heard and said that you have heard. So then these then follow, the rest follow in this way, making for a total of 8.
Koja yu ne paru beton ko ta samba la son les samba de la ne juma samba de la son ja wurs du je kolon je samba son ro son ta du je de kan de je ne ja ko ma ba juma du je ton la me zo ton la ma ton jo atan ma ton jo atan ton la ma ton de je jos Hotel du Chid, Hotel de Jagoures. Nous coûtons là, nous matons là. Khensur du Chid, c'est quoi bata? Ton là maton. Hotel du Chid Joa. Ton là, maton Joa dans. Maton là, ton du Chid Joa, du Chid. Du Chid, je veux le voir, c'est quoi? Joa sauce, du Chid, c'est Hotel de Jagoures, marbe. Ta nyomon nous sont. Nyomon ta. De cha control de mon son de marbe je m'ai tenu mutala de cha con que je m'awa control on que je m'awa de mon con que je m'awa son je rota son mon sa ta colonne je m'ai colonne de chez je te pas de boss ton la ma ton c'est la de ba de ba de la colonne c'est marbe ton la maton la ou no de bayro maton la ton la ya de bayro de colon so teres marba tena samal tiba marba colon en de je de pas de bawos
So then it says, lying is when someone else, the recipient of the lie, comprehends the meaning of the lie. Of the 3 aspects of the category of attitude, perception, affliction, and motivation, perception includes misrepresenting a perception, such as what you have seen, as something you have not seen, or misrepresenting what you have not seen as something you have seen. The afflictions are the 3 mental poisons. The motivation is your desire to misrepresent your perception. So here it says the perception is the misrepresentation of something that you have seen or something that you have not seen. So saying you have seen something you haven't seen, or saying that you have not seen something that you have seen. This misrepresentation is the perception itself. So this is what is meant by that. And the next category, the afflictions, are among the 3 mental poisons. So if it's influenced by attachment, hatred, or delusion, it has to be influenced by attachment, hatred, or delusion. So these are the 3 poisons, and this is what affliction is referring to in this case. And then the next category of motivation, which is the 3rd category under the categories of attitude, perception, affliction, and motivation, is the motivation to want to say something that isn't true. Say you have seen something that you haven't seen, or not seen something that you have seen. So the motivation is to change the truth, or to change what is true. So so this is what the motivation is when it comes to stealing, is to the example Rinpoche gave the example of saying you have seen something that you haven't seen. So the motivation to deceive, if you will, is the last category of motivation. So perception, affliction, and motivation.
And then look what the Thomas on your Naju Tambaina, Kanakai Malabaina, could look what the look Naju Jerum. Joanna,
So
John Mao, John Mama, Joanna Mao, and Tonsola Thomas was Labaina Jero, Malaba J, and Tomola Thomas on the Dojin, look Naju Tambaina. What the jury was a matter. Jula, Daim Aja, Nine Macho, Macho, Juna Nine Macho, Luganaju to Jury, Luganaju, Zutons was na, Thomas and Guyu, not the jury. Chuzo Tons was na, and those years Thomas
Chap Majo. Okay. So the going back to the last set of statements, so it's this, the motivation is to misrepresent what you have perceived. So it's to misrepresent that perception. Then the next category, which deals with the culmination or completion, performance rather, is the action of it, the performance of it, can be indicated through speaking, but also through a gesture of some sort. So Rinpoche is saying that if it is lying, it is not necessarily speech. It does not necessarily have to be speech, because one could lie. For instance, if someone says, "Did you see that?" And you did, and you shake your head no, then this is a way that one can lie physically. So if it is a lie, it does not necessarily have to be a spoken word. It can also be an action of the body. So here it says that the performance is indicating something through speaking, through choosing not to speak, or through gesture. So the absence of speaking also, in this case, is considered a way in which one can perform the deed of lying. So the performance of the deed of lying can be done through by physical gesture, by not making a gesture at all, and then also by actual speech. So these are the different ways in which one can perform the deed of lying. So it's not necessary to be speaking in order to lie.
통화라 마통시 방와 통화라 마통시 마소나 치드가 되어다
so
저는 방와 통화라 마통시 방와 마통화라 통시 방와 되네 안에 시발라 마시스 방와 시다 시발라 마시 방와 마시발라 시바 뭐 어떤게 이지 시바 마시바 방와 마시발라 시바 방와
So here, when we speak of performing, is indicating through speaking, choosing not to speak, or through a gesture. What is one indicating? One is indicating that misrepresenting the truth. For instance, if we're speaking of seeing a form, if one has seen a form, says that he or she has not seen a form, or if has not seen a form, states that it has not seen a form, saying that has seen a form. So these are the two categories of performance related to the seeing. Heard something or not heard something. So heard something, saying you've heard something you haven't heard, or haven't heard something you've heard. Distinguish something you haven't distinguished, or haven't distinguished, saying you haven't distinguished something you have distinguished, or saying that the performance of saying that you've cognized something that you haven't cognized, or not cognized something that you have cognized. All of these are the performances which are indicated through speaking, gesture, or non-verbal. communication. So these are the possibilities in how one performs the deed of lying, the performances of lying.
다 줌하와서 나는 줌마마 이나 줌요아레스 네 마와 장마마유 마 와도 통화라마 동시 마송나 제드 라송나 줌레스 줌시 말베 나가서 나드 줌레는 거지로다 다냐 나드 말라나야데네 와데 줌젠다 자용거레스 장마마유 좀 메조 통선스나 조 통선에 자 퇴선스 티소나 안나 그 준라네 아니 통마송 퇴마송스 르그 나주되네 준마요레 준마서 거르다 나주고는 준마요레스 나주고는 준데마서 거르다 마마이 단돌라와 마마이 단돌라와 르지 tsime tembo tsime 르지 나주고네 네 마통이 tsama 요아레 통이 tsama 요아레 르기 나주도 준레스디서레 준라 다임이 차고 말에 나임이 차고 말에 조요 네 르지 이데카도 요아레서 어떠선데 손데 사마르베.
Further, in terms of the purpose, it is said to be the same whether you speak for your own purpose or for the sake of others. So, in the case it is said that even so, if you're if you're doing it for oneself, of saying that you have where did I write it? I lost my place on the paper.
마마유 단도 람바 마마유 단도 람바 네 르주 세멘도 먹어서 마마유 군 당아 중고유야다 르기 참아서 어디서 말বে 평소 통소하시나 토마송스 야나 저 통소하시라나 단도 람바 비치 참아 되는 마도 고자 말와 저 통소는 그 통소를 라니 마르바지 아니 토마송스라나 맞아 토마송스 르기 나주스다요 어디 중에서 말ပဲ죄레스 대 치마르 타마르 나마르스 르기 나주 이다카도 나바리 제그소나 레지마이미주 레지그조 르기 나주 라테네 그거데 통매만다 르기 나주 라테네 콘트 통여반다 로바고야요로다 로바고데 로바 때문에 르기 나주도 어디 중에서 말ပဲ.
So when we look at the way that we can indicate that something, we can indicate it verbally, and we can through verbally or through a gesture or through non-verbally. So if it is something that is lying, it does not necessarily have to be sound. It does not necessarily have to be speech. So we can, in a gesture way, through our body, lie. So it's indicating something that isn't true. So we're indicating something that is the opposite of what is actual. So if we're saying we have seen a form and haven't seen a form, or heard a sound and haven't heard a sound, then this is indicating something that is the opposite of what is true, or something that is not true about what we've experienced. So here, this does not have to be done verbally. And there's a section, Rapche, there's a small part I think I'm missing here in this section about the misrepresentation. There's just something. There's one part.
I haven't missed. That's all. Yeah?
That's all of it.
That's all, yeah.
I felt like I missed something.
Yeah.
Okay, decent.
Yeah, this way.
Thank you. Just feel like there's a.
다가한테 어떤 줌 하와서 야든 가서 계좌시고 말봐. 하와서는 다 말봐. 줌 하와서 야들래 제가 자시고 도와. 안에 줌 하와들래 안에 미기조 통선스는 마송나 주로가. 미기조 통선스나 안에 통디 임발라 Thomas Lana, Zumarbe, Thomas. And Thomas Jesona, Matomalazo Thomas, Masona, Zumawa. Naya Datus, Thomas Mana, Junsi Marbe. Matubala Tus Mana, Junsiro. Shira Mashibala, Shira Shenem Hasona, Shira Shenem Hasona, Sai Shibi, Tenyu, Chi Shibi, Ro, Lucibi Yamarbe. And Shiba Sumdege, you Sans Lana, Nyola Noma Susalana. How was that to Marbe? Jigal Jad, Jigal Jasha, Uncle Nuka Kashi Rota. And I eat Shibi Shibala Shemasons Lani Trubaina. How was that? And each Shibi Mena, each Shibi was Trisona, Shesons Mamoina, Judendoro.
So we're in
indicating.
So when we're indicating something that is misrepresentation, then this is what we're speaking of when we're speaking of lying. So when we're indicating that we have seen something that we have not seen, or not seen something that we have seen, then this is the performance of lying related to the what is seen. For instance, a form. If we lie, when we look at it related to hearing, if we are lying about something that we have heard, saying that we have heard something we haven't heard, or not heard something that we have heard, then this is the performance of indicating something incorrect, and this is lying. When we look at distinguished, what we have distinguished, this is referring to the what we have smelled, tasted, or felt, tactile sensations we've had. So if we're misrepresenting or indicating that we have tasted, touched, or smelled something that we have not, or the opposite, have not tasted something that we have, or touched something that we have, or smelled something that we have, then this is the lying. This is this is how the performance of lying, by indicating something that isn't true. And then when we look at the cognized, we're speaking of the mental consciousness. So we're saying we have cognized something that we have not cognized, or have not cognized something that we have cognized. So these are all the different possibilities related to performance, and how what we're indicating or during that action of lying, what we're indicating in order for it to be lying. Yeah, indicating in order for it to be lying.
That Junsheba ina Jun Nadu Mashivachi, Lugananju Dun Junsheba ina, or the Jet Jashivachi Udwa. Make so Tonsona, and the Kadmalavaje, Tonson to the Lugananju Tan, or things about the Jama Mayu Tanto Lamba, Leju, Cement was Lugananju to the
So we find that these 8 also can be, one can engage in this performance by physically as well. One can indicate something without having to speak. So for instance, if one has seen a form and is asked if he or she hasn't seen a form, and replies with a physical gesture in a way that provides the information that he or she hasn't seen it, then this also is lying. So it's not necessary for it to be speech. It can also be a physical action as well, a physical activity as well, to indicate something.
Dream the Marita, Dream Tongo Marba, Jugutonda Tongoro. How is Nagadrima Tangdoa? John Mama Yu Tan, John Mama Yu Tan to Lamba, Luju Seme, Tombo said to what the Luji Nanju can dream out, Dream Tongo the
Lesser.
The Lugananju what the Dream was Tombo. What the Dream la? Dream the Zul Chabakarius, Dream the Zul Chabakarius, Roba. 주인나 소위 맞아. 주인나 소위 찬서 말이야. 저서로. 다당 력나 주고 저도.
카도.
이나 카도가 나는 배지 파르베도 고고들래 배지 카도나 제서 말이야. 카도나 대인데 있어로.
Rinpoche also referred to non-observed form and observed form. Reichi's when he was talking about the observed form and not observed form previously. I just lost my place. So Rinpoche is saying that if it is the karma, lying, the action of lying, is it necessarily form? That's the question Rinpoche is asking. If it is the action of lying, is it necessarily form? Zuyim bicha. Shiramawa dan tenjo the Lujue the Nale Zuyin Chap. Then the Dodepa dan Sensampa.
Sensampa Jeda Zuge Poi Semba. Sheba Kanjana. Tuan Dushi Semba said, what the Kanjana Mendoa.
Sheba Yen Gang Semjung Yen. Okay. So we find differences in the presentation of the tenet systems. So for instance, in the Vabhashika school and the middle way consequence school, or the Madhyamika Prasangika school, so the Great Exposition school and the middle way consequence school, the belief is that actions of body and speech, or karma of body and speech, are necessarily form. And if we look at the other tenet systems, if we look at the Sautrantika school, the Sutra school, the Chittamantran school, the mind-only school, or the middle way autonomy school, we find the presentation that it is necessarily a mental factor, consciousness, so that the actions, karma of body and speech are mental factors. So we find differences in the tenet systems related to the presentation of what is form and so forth, how the presentation of karma.
Ta junju goba de junju teyang goba ranga yenji tuen jenda shiki sheto penjang zhao song sosa. Ta junmaya goba de rang duen yinay digare yen duen yinay tene junmaya nyeba de yungures draba yin song do se. Teyang goba ranga junmaya goba jun kasugore junmaya goba junju goba rangas rangde marbe yenji tun jenda shiki sheto penjans jenda sheto juma penjan jungi nyeba yungore rabures penjan da son sos rande jumananda jure jenda jumana jures goba
Dene mo alo soen
son so te an jun dan chama
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it says further in terms of the purpose, it is said that to be the same whether you speak for your own purpose or for the sake of others. So if you're the purpose or the reason for doing it is for yourself or for someone else, either way it is lying if you're engaging in this. So it doesn't matter the purpose why you're doing it. If it's for you or for someone else, it's lying.
Teyang goba ranga yenji tun jenda shiki sheto penjang rao song so dere jun dang chama cizu song la juwa la de song tun juwa song yin sa jun chama cizu song bade su jun shi na jun re de gre yen jun shi jun na jun re de gre So then the
next is in, it says, In this case, it is said that even causing others to engage in 3 types of speech, lying, divisive speech, or offensive speech, is the same thing as doing it yourself. So if you order someone else to engage in any among these 3 lying, divisive speech, or offensive speech, or harsh words, then it is the same as doing it yourself. So whether you order it or you do it, it's the same.
And again, the log of the tongue get you some tigum loser. Then her lose is Sajulun Tagamarbas. And then I say what the desires and again, Grunshis use that. And good by Hindu, not then the nation to Drumo. And then I'm the good Grunshis.
Hey guys, can you help me with this? Because it's easier. It's a story of when he was in Varanasi.
They had a teacher who teach
Abhidharma.
Commentary of Abhidharma. But the teacher himself couldn't teach the actual test.
Okay.
Instead of teaching, he tells story about the Hindu temple and stories like that. And because they learned through Tibetan language, so they said he just read the root test and you guys understand everything. Because the Geshe Rinpoche already studied all the students.
Because the teacher didn't understand. I didn't want to try. I didn't know if that was a mistake. So thank you. Thank you. He was a Sanskrit scholar, though.
He's a Sanskrit scholar, yeah. Yeah. So they formed a group of people. Maybe he's involved in that group. Now they are trying to translate all the Ganju and Denju into English or Chinese.
Semba Doji, what called the Juya Keba?
His name is Semba Doji.
Professor
Semba Doji.
Translation.
What the Zurande, what the Zurande, Tangatun, Zawa, Tanzu, Pepin Deba Moro. The Tena was Zawa to the Guajedio, Vendictuna. What the Randel Shiraka Kangamundo.
So this was the Vasubandhu's own auto commentary on the Abhidharma Kosha. And this auto commentary was able to maybe present, and Rinpoche was saying there's Tibetan commentaries on this auto commentary as well that give this presentation. But this particular text is Vasubandhu's own commentary on the Treasury of Knowledge. So even though the Abhidharma Kosha was written according to the Great Exposition school view, the Vibhashika school view, it's of great benefit. The information or content is of great benefit.
So
in this auto commentary in the Vasubandhu wrote, he gives a very the course explanation of the tenets of the 3 different systems within the Vibhashika the system.
Yeah.
What are the names of the 3? Do you know the names?
Some of the Siruche. Pesha, some the Siru. The page some gene, Kozakin de Pachet, Labiniki, never Gaudi, Pekar son and good Gaguares. Because Jerabag never Pekar son, Pesun Yuba, Siru, Cha.
The local Sheramawa.
Haji Denju says, Haji Denju said the Sherama, Denju send the second dose, the Marin. They descend the number. they descended temple son solos. Nobody doing the Shedamai, Swanjig Sun is a good Maris Urta. They descended temple son solos at the Shedama Trust. What the cell law trust on to go there, Shedama in the Bomativa Kagi Kagi in the Yundu. So many sense of
it's difficult to. I can try. Still mean so-called, meaning so-called Buddha said, mean to define, to negate what you guys saying is so-called. You guys saying so-called Buddha said, actually it was not Buddha's words. So law mean
negation.
Yeah, it's a negation. It's like incrimination of the words in Tibetan. Law and that's the laws. That's it.
So
the English they will say that's true. That's it. Means not the true. Yeah.
Right.
That's it. It's one expression to negate some sort. That's it. Or so-called these two.
So these are the presentations that Vasubandhu is negating that have come up in scripture about the Great Exposition School that are incorrect. And there's 3 categories.
Yeah, they use so-called or
so-called things that have come up in
Also, you say that's the Buddha words. It's like a 2 question back, right?
Right.
That's it.
That is true. It is. That is what it is.
Yeah.
So he questions the things that have risen into the Great Exposition School.
Yes.
And then Rinpoche said that
that's a negate. Actually, they try to explain the Abhidhamma, but at the same time try to negate the Viveka school's political view, philosophical view. Sorry.
And then Rinpoche said that Vasubandhu is a Chittamantran. The Lopun Yinye. Sensampa Yimba. First the So then he relied upon the teachings of his brother Arya Sangha, who taught many of the mind-only school views, and then converted from the Sautrantika school view to the mind-only school view after reading these commentaries by Asanga. Vasubandhu did.
Vasubandhu the Repa Tsabushi Mendoa, Repa Tsabushi, and then Tomet the Repa Tin Rinpoche Mendoa. And the Lume in you get and then Lume 2 men shoot him and when you do that call 2 ways and you know the Candace pressure to the table was there. Nada Shadashi Shagala Haji Ruji waters. Lume 2 men what the song is. So do it and the Lume in Gala than a Laruji, which is Larujilas. And teaching Tenju Mo Trisha, what the Teba Chimichu Mogano, Shadong Sunmanra, and Teba Chimiteju Motis, Jambe on the Sumba in the Sumaka.
So Master Vasubandhu was a great, gave a great presentations, great presenter, sharp presenter, and Sangha was very stable for a long time. It had stability. So Vasubandhu was very sharp, and Asanga was very stable. And Vasubandhu went to speak of this stability, and Asanga said that he's been helped by God, by a deity, and then Vasubandhu replies by saying, can I be helped also by this deity? And then the Hla Suyana, So here this is a reference to Lord Maitreya, who is helping Asanga. So there's a large amount to understand. Triwa Dan Lanja, go ahead.
Dan Dundele, and Nagi Jigala, Ju, Lelan, Joshi, Dundele, Ju, Tama, Nachi, what the Jun Tama Situ Nachi Jigalo, and Jenda Lojuna, Jenda Juna, Tama Shijuna, Situ, Nachi, Sama Lungu, was Sonsha Srita. Tan Dual Marvin, Duajindua, Dualene. Tadaki Tatu Tonga Chebala Tadaki Jun Tama Chitu Nachi Tadaki Tua Tatu Chebala, Rangi Meba, Govasonsos. Rangi Meba. Junshi Gente Magures.
The Doa, the Ngag Yingu, the Kailan. Because in English it looks like says that yourself must speak in order to incur a full infraction.
The Amitabha commentary, they said you encourage others to lie. Must be it's equal to yourself as a performance liar, but the yin didn't know that.
So it's different. The Dua is different.
Yeah, Dua is different. Yeah.
So it says in Vasubandhu's Treasury of Knowledge and Auto Commentary explain that all 4 vocal non-virtues constitute passive action when you cause others to do them. The texts on discipline say that you yourself must speak in order to incur an infraction. Then the Ranje Dang Dua Kakare. So there's a difference in the Vasubandhu's auto commentary and the Vinaya. Here it says text on discipline. It's speaking of the Vinaya texts.
Tasu Jibi Tatu the Kane Yungresana. Tatu ne Paribu Goat, Tung Gosma, Zuma was very Cosmona, and Tatu the Yungres. Je Samba Joa Tatu Jetsan Yu, Zuma Debat Yungres.
That's so. So then we get to the point of culmination or completion. So this is the last step. So we have first the basis, then the attitude, and then the performance, and now we have the actual culmination or completion. So it says the culmination of a lie is someone else's comprehension. The way that a lie culminates is someone else understanding what one has said.
Tashame Bent Dagodin Sundo, Majishaka Lamadele, and Kochala Namadel Shantu Samaji Purujis, and Jainte, and Kochala Shantu Samal Purujis, Jayobayina, and the Majenda Shantu Samasu Yago Maruta. What is the Kandalama Jilpuna? And the Lama, what the Shamba, and the Mexican, the second was and the Jala, the Shantu Samaji Purundus, and the Hakumudu. Lama Jilpuna. Lama the Kaimala Jebaina Machulam doing what is Jebata. Shanju Samba Radio another Yungo Maruta. Shanju Samba Membala and the Kaimala Jedeba in Shanju Samba Hindu.
So at the time of death, the householder wanted to offer to the Bodhisattva.
Yeah, to ask somebody to
offer to a Bodhisattva, and he said that there is no Bodhisattva.
No, because this guy took this statue to offer to a guru Lama, and then they recite the words which the dead person who said he asked me to offer this object to a Bodhisattva, and then if the Lama keep quiet. Means keep quiet and accept the subject.
They're inferring that they're a bodhisattva. Thank you very much. So we fully ordained monks have to be very careful about this. So there's a lie that takes place if the monk doesn't respond that he is not a bodhisattva. Thank you, Rapje. So one has to be careful about what one has says that he or she has realized or seen, the realized or seen. So maybe people have questions. Stashi.
I've seen this. Actually, the next.
I'm going to find it in Tibetan now.
So it's just a misconception I think I have. In the confession to the 35 Buddhas, and in the past, I believe that creating an action, making others create an action, and then rejoicing in the action were 3 separate karmas. And it seems like here that sometimes it says if you do it or you cause others to do it, it's the same. Is there a subtle infraction, or is it the same? If you kill someone, or if you make someone else kill someone, or you rejoice in the killing of someone else, are those separate karmas, or are they the same?
So if you order someone to kill, or you kill yourself, and then the rejoicing in the killing, Are those 3 separate karmas?
Well, yes, because it seems like here it says that it's the same. I forget where it is, but maybe I'm just confused. Could you clear that up for me?
The Suchupa, the Ran Suchu, then Chen, the Suchu, then the Sumba, the Jesu Yeranwa, then the Lei Sum, the Kakare.
Jesu Yeranwa.
The Jesu Yeranwa. The
Suchupa, Jesu Yeranwa, Shen Suchupa, Dar Susu Rangi, Ganza Rangi, Suchupa, Dan Chiche, Ku Dam de Sesa, Susu Rangi, Suchupa Chiche, Le Chiche, and Shen Suchupa, Le Niche, and you Miss Suchu, Sing Suchupa, Jesu Yeranwa, Le Sagan Chibares, Le Zodan Chibares.
Tarang Suchu, Suchu, Le Yungro. Jen Suchu, Suchu, Le Yungro.
Chiba, okay.
Chiba.
Then Jesu Yer?
That Jesu Yeran, Jena, Tendaba, Deba Yungramatu, Suchu, Le Longo
So the basis isn't the basis.
With the last one.
So the killing, if you kill yourself or you order someone to kill, it's exactly the same. If we look at the rejoicing, we don't say that it's killing because it's the basis. There isn't a killing that takes place. So that it's a separate action. It's a separate karma. So the killing you order or the killing you do yourself is the same, an action of killing, but the rejoicing is an action of killing. Yes?
In Western thought, in terms of lying, we have lying by commission and lying by omission. And I was not hearing until the very last story
the omission.
The line of omission. And it only talked about referring to a monk, but I'm curious what the Buddhist notion is of lying of omission.
Then the me jiran chiwa jana. Then the lenja ha kona yene ma lenja lema ja the zun yimba. Kangi sena the ngama the shanchu semba chububu. Then the drop out shanchu semba ma yimba lama son then the zun yin. Then the kongi chiwa the dets larona. The dets larona.
Da mashi shigalama jiga ku jala da ku shanju samba jil puruji jayu.
Lesso.
Ku shitarota.
Lesso.
Ano ku shanju samba su ya ku maruta. The lama jil puba ina.
Lesso.
Ni shigen de den secondus.
Lesso.
No ku shigen jala res.
Lesso.
No ku shanju samba jil puruji nga ha ku mes lama jil puruji na.
Lesso.
Ano lama de nga shanju samba mes malona. De dujere.
Then a len ma ja.
Len ma ja. Lama jo chala len sona ju.
Tu jenda yirbe. Len ma ja de zun yimba.
Lama jo ku chala len sona.
Accept the offering, because that's the person who before he passed away asked him to offer this object to a Bodhisattva, and then the other person that took the object to a Lama and says, "Oh, such person before he passed away, he asked me to offer this subject to a Bodhisattva, and what should I do?" Right? And then Lama didn't say a word, pretend he was the Bodhisattva, and to accept, actually, if they accept the subject, then become a
So
complete life.
the question that I was asking Rinpoche is, that's an example of a sin of omission. So what is another example of, in the Buddhist context, of omission, which could be a lying, omission of lying? Gender yirbe.
What the could that Shanju somebody Purus Shigen Shazarwa. Cook Lama Shigen this secondus. And then Lama Shanju Samasu Yakum to Lama Puruna. And the Shanju somebody read you not digger. Shanju somebody read member Ina and Kujala Lena. So
this person who has died.
So
the person who has died has made the request that this offering be given to a bodhisattva, and the person who brings this offering to the Lama makes this offering and says, "I was told by this person who died to give this offering to a bodhisattva." Now, if the person is a bodhisattva and then accepts the offering, then there's no infraction of lying. But if he or she accepts the offering and is not a bodhisattva, then this is lying. So if in the case where they are a bodhisattva, then it's okay, there's no infraction incurred. But if they are not a bodhisattva and they accept it, then the moment they accept it, then the infraction is occurred. Then another example, like the... So all other examples would be the same. Others would be the same. So, in a sense, if you said, make this offering to a Buddha, and then they bring it to an individual and they say that this offering was being made to be given to a Buddha, and then the offering is given to the person and they aren't a Buddha, they don't respond and say that they're not, then this is another example of an omission that would be considered lying. We're out of time, Rinpoche said. So we'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you Rinpoche for helping. Appreciate it. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lobsang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Rinpoche, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts, with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Gutsi Shabi Denonan, Hatsuran Chenmo